Hi everyone, Vacha here from Recording Studio 9 and thanks for joining me again today. This is part 4 of a series of videos on Behringer's Xenyx UFX1604 16-channel mixer audio interface. And if you haven't watched part 1 to 3, I highly recommend you visit my YouTube channel and or the playlist and watch those first, because I do cover quite a lot in detail about the channels. And in today's video, I'm going to be covering in more detail the auxiliary options we have on the mixer, what the auxiliary buses are and how they work, and in the end, I'm going to give you a practical example of how to use those auxiliary buses. And I hope you stick around till end of the video for them. So without any further ado, let's discover what the auxiliary sends and FX sends are all about. The auxiliary sends 1 and 2, they simply tap into the channel's audio signal and then route that signal to an independent auxiliary bus that has a separate output at the back. The amount of signal sent to that auxiliary bus is determined by the position of the knob. In the center, which is also a click effect, that means a unity gain. That means whatever the audio signal coming into that channel is sent to the bus. Turning to the left will have less of the signal going. Turning to the right, more of the signal being sent to that auxiliary bus. Auxiliary buses are mainly used for on-stage speakers for musicians to be able to hear themselves during a live performance. The combined signal from each channel auxiliary send is mixed at the master send of the auxiliary bus, and a master outgoing level is determined by the auxiliary master 1 and 2 send knobs. Again, the center click is 0 dB unity gain, and we can have overall less auxiliary send or more gain being sent to the outputs, just like a master fader on the mixer. Each auxiliary send has a pre and a post button. This determines whether the signal being picked up from the channel is before the fader or after the fader. Let's have a look at some examples. When the auxiliary send is set to pre-fader, it means the audio is sent to the auxiliary master directly. So channel mute, solo or fader level has no effect on the audio being sent. The audio will still be sent even when muted or the fader is set at 0. This is useful if you still want your musicians to hear on stage while you have your main front of house speakers turned down or off. When the auxiliary send switch is set to post, that means the audio signal from the channel is picked up at the end of the line after the fader. That means channel mute, solo or fader level will actually affect the amount of audio signal sent to the auxiliary bus. So as you turn your fader down or up, the level sent to the auxiliary will also go up and down in signal level. Well, now you know how auxiliary 1 and 2 work, and FXA and FXB are no different. They work very similar and you can use them in the exact manner as auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2. But of course, we get the added benefit of having two independent effects modules built into the mixer, and we can use those FXA and FXB buses to send a signal into those FX modules. So let's find out how that works. Now to the FX channels. Like the auxiliary 1 and 2, the FX sends 1 and 2 tap into the audio signal part of each channel and route to the respective FXA or FXB module. The amount is set by the FX send knob of each channel, and the center click is at 0 dB unity. Just to note that each FX module input is a mono signal because all your channels are mono, and the output is stereo depending on the effect selected, which is fed to the main master bus. The FXA and FXB master send levels combine the signal output and send to the effects module. Again, center click 0 dB is at unity and can provide an optimum level when proper gain staging of each channel is applied. Gain staging has been explained in part 1 of this series. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch part 1 of the series. And as you will see that if you have set that correctly, having the FX Send at 0 dB level will have the optimum signal sent to the FX module. Luckily, FXA and FXB have input signal meter. And it's always a good idea to have a signal at minus 12 dB being fed into the digital FX modules to get optimum signal without any distortion, clipping, or noise. Like the auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2, FXA and FXB master send also have pre and post buttons available. Again, pre determines that the signal is picked up before the fader, and post means it's picked up after the fader. Here is an example of the FX Send set to pre. That means the audio is sent to the FX module before the fader, and fader level, mute, solo will have no effect on the amount of signal sent to the FX module. When we have our FX Send set to post, that means the audio signal sent to the FX module is after the fader. And this is the most common way to send effects to the FX module. Just a quick recap that the back of the unit, these are the sockets of the auxiliary 1 to auxiliary 4 output. We also have auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2 master returns. These are signals, audio signals, returned back to the mixer at line level. The returning signal is fed into the main mix bus at pre-main fader. Here at the back of the unit, we see the auxiliary 1 TRS stereo input sockets. Plugging only to the left, we get a mono signal coming back. Plugging in to the left and the right, we get a stereo signal coming back. These are useful if we are using external effects modules. And here are the auxiliary 2 TRS stereo input sockets at the back of the unit. Just a quick note that if you are not using any external returns, you can actually use these two stereo inputs to connect keyboards, drum machines, or synthesizers that feed into the returns during a live performance. Of course, since these do not feed into any channel, they won't be recorded on the built-in USB recorder or sent to your DAW via the Firewire or the USB. The FXA and FXB master returns set the level of the signal coming back from the FX modules, and they are fed into the main mix bus at pre-main fader level. When you use the TRS return sockets, it disengages the building FX module, and like the auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2 returns, they too can be used as returns for effects or line level signal. Here at the back of the unit, we actually can see the FXA TRS stereo return sockets and the FXB stereo return socket. There are 5 more additional options of audio routing available for the auxiliary returns and the FXA and FXB returns. I will cover them in future videos. So as I promised, here's a quick example of how we can use auxiliary buses in a live performance situation, either on stage or even in the studio. Okay, as I promised, here is a typical live performance on-stage monitor layout and how we can organize our auxiliary sends to help the musicians to hear themselves loud and clear. We can assign auxiliary 1 for our main lead vocal. This way we can adjust different levels for the vocal to hear on their stage monitors, like having more of his vocal being heard on those speakers. I sometimes also add a little bit more kick and snare into this mix so that the vocalist can keep in time with the rest of the band during a very busy song. We can assign auxiliary 2 for the rest of the musicians so they get balanced mixed of everything. And lastly, we can actually use auxiliary 3 or FXA being used as auxiliary 3 to be sent to the drummer. In this situation, I would normally send the bass guitar a little bit more to the drummer because bass guitar and drummers usually keep in time in sync at the right tempo. And we can also add a little bit more of vocal into this mix so that the drummer can hear the vocal and the bass guitar as loud as he would need. Of course, then we can use the FXB as the main effects for the vocals and any other effects we require for any other channels. As you can see, there are a lot more options available for us for the auxiliary buses as well as the FX buses, but I will go through them with you in another video. Well, I hope this video was helpful, as well as a series of videos that I'm producing on the Behringer's Xenyx UFX1604. If they are, please do give me the thumbs up, and if you have any comments, feel free to use the comment section below, and I'm more than happy to answer any queries you might have thus far. But if there are any questions which I haven't covered, obviously they'll be covered in follow-up videos. And for that, I do hope that you do subscribe and hit that bell as well, so you'll be notified as soon as I upload any video on the unit. Till next time, as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio, guys.